Well, we wanted to kind of, I mean, in terms of the guitar sounds, just kind of strip it down, make the guitars more raw sounding, but nothing too different. I mean, just do a straight up rock record. I hate to use the word like a retro sound, but just make it more of an older kind of guitar feel to it. Not so much the slick kind of radio rock guitar sounds that you hear a lot on the radio or wherever.
Layer vocals and all that stuff.
Yeah, like strip everything down. Don't double up the vocals. Just do it very, very raw as possible, while maintaining like a really contemporary sound, which is a balancing act.
This is the third show with our new drummer, Mr. Adam Willard. Let's give it up for him. Gave himself a little drum beat. Here, I'll do it for you, Adam.
With Adam involved, it's been it's kind of harping back to how it was when we first started. There's a new energy, and we just kind of started with going through like just jamming in a room on ideas. And really, we hadn't done that before because of scheduling and whatnot. Like, the last record for Below the Belt, it was me and him writing all the songs, kind of, and then going, okay, this is it from beginning to end. And now for this one, it was kind of a lot more of, I guess, organic jamming, or just like being a band and having that excitement. And having Adam involved and having him coming to the band as a genuine fan of the band, that really was a good thing. And he knew the band's past releases and whatnot, so that's something that kind of carried into the making of this record and the writing. I think the one thing that really stood out, if anything, is that the one problem that we had is that we had so many riffs and ideas for songs, and that was kind of like shaving it down to...
Which is a good problem to have.
Yeah, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So it was like shaving it down to like 18 songs, and then I think it was the day when we got to the studio that we had to decide, we're like, okay, we have to do 15. We're like, no, we're going to do 16. And then, so it was just kind of like, we're kind of, if it was up to us, we'd still be writing and stuff. So it's good, which is a good thing.
It's an old title we had from year one of our band, like way back in like '96. It was going to be the title of like our first 7-inch or first cassette or EP or LP that we put out. But at the same time that we were going to use it, there's another band from Toronto, the Deadly Snakes. They put out a 7-inch called Real Rock and Roll Tonight. So because we were in the same scene, we didn't want, it's just too similar sounding. So we didn't use it. But we always...
And in the back of your mind.
Had in the back of our head.
That's
so
something, if we ever have opportunity, let's pull that out.
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally, yeah, but we couldn't come up with a title for the album. There wasn't an album, there wasn't a song title that was like screaming album title, or so I remember I was in my car driving home, and I got a text from JC, and it said, and I knew him and Adam were having dinner together, and all it said on the text was "Rock and roll is black and blue," and I knew exactly what he meant, and I was just like, "Fuck yeah!" I'm down with it. Like, I'm down with that title. And so Adam was the only one who hadn't heard it yet, obviously, and he loved it when he heard it. So JC knew I already loved it, because we've mentioned it over the years. It's always kind of come up every few years, so I'm glad it found a home. I hope so, because he's the first guy since our first drummer, and then eventually we really started to grow apart musically, Michael, that he joined our band because he was a fan of our band.
So he knew about the past history and that.
His favorite albums were Born. I remember in '05 we played LA, he was in the crowd, and I was just like, wow, that's Adam from Rocket from the Crypt in the crowd. So he was a genuine fan, and that was like 6 years before he joined our band. He was watching us live, and of course, him being in Rocket from the Crypt, one of our favorite bands, and in one of the bands we kind of fashioned this band off on in the beginning. So there's a mutual admiration.
Yeah.
So what I mean to say that past drummers, even though they, played the songs excellent and, it was a well-oiled machine, behind the scenes, musically, we weren't really on the same page. And I find with Adam, when we were writing and wherever musical direction we're going, we're on the same page. For the first time in a very, very long time, there isn't, someone who doesn't really like this music but is playing it because we get to go to Helsinki or we get to go to Sydney or wherever. He's playing it because he genuinely loves the music. And so that is, that's helpful and fucking refreshing. And like JC said, the last album, like it was just him and I in a room looking at each other, bouncing these riffs back and forth between two people in a room. And then when Dan would come in, not to throw him under the bus, but when Dan would come in, we'd kind of tell him how to play the songs. Like, we're not drummers, so we'd give him
point out some structure of what we were looking for. And,
right.
Okay.
Which is something we never had to do with past drummers. Like with Damon, just my eyes closed, we just play the song. And now with Adam as well, once again, we're back on that track where we just don't have to think about, there's something wrong with these drums. It's not sounding, the riff isn't blossoming the way it's supposed to. Luckily, the guy, Matt DiMatteo, who produced Below the Belt, is a drummer. Like, beyond being a producer.
Right, yeah.
He's originally a drummer, and he's drummed and he's toured and stuff as a drummer. So we bring the drums to a certain level, and obviously we're not drummers. And then Matt would kind of coax Dan in a way to play the songs right. But with Adam, it's been like, we just, once again, just close your eyes and just let him play the drums the way, and he'll know exactly how to make the songs blossom. So we do these kind of sporadic shows here and there, but it's nothing against America and nothing against the UK, which is another place we don't get to very often. It's just, I find like, especially in the States, and in Canada as well, the musical atmosphere isn't really conducive to the kind of music we're playing right now. Like, I mean, there is rock bands, but they're not our kind of rock bands, and those are very popular bands. And I find that, I just find the scene for the kind of rock we're playing, it's just, I wish more people would listen to the Stooges and MC5 and Kiss.
Essential.
Like early Kiss, the way that we listen to it and we approach it. And then there might be a bigger scene for it and a bigger audience for it. I mean, we'll play. I mean, the great thing about being in this band over the years we've noticed is we can kind of like coast between different scenes and different audiences seamlessly, which has been a good thing for us to do. It's allowed us to gain a bigger following than if we were just strictly like a metal band playing death metal. We can only play in front of death metal audiences, but we've been able to play with so many different kinds of bands because of our sound. I just wish there was an audience particular for our sound.
Gotcha.
Whereas there's, we've toured with Flogging Molly and we've toured with the Super Suckers, and we've toured with Motorhead, and they all have their specific audiences. But we're a band that can play with all of them, but we don't have in North America like we do in other places, our audience who knows the music that we're playing and can reference it as much as in Europe, the way Europe has.
I think it may take a very creative booking agent or someone out there to do like a power trio, huge festival.
Michael and I have talked a Volbeat Danko US tour, and I'm throwing that out there. Boom, if he's watching, we've talked about it. I don't know if it'll happen. It's just two guys in bands talking about it, and there's a lot of red tape between us. But that was something that was talked about in Europe and almost happened 4 years ago. Volbeat Danko tour in Europe. That, to me, I can't think of a better rock tour right now, like in terms of like a bigger for Europe. But for America, definitely it would be a Volbeat tour with us on it, tagged on it. But that would be a band that and Motorhead as well. That we you know, there is a scene. It's just it's a real weird thing, because I think in North America, Canada, America, like it's the music's so segregated. Like, okay, there's death metal. Well, I can't, you know, and then there's radio rock. Well, then there's like Lady Gaga and Katy Perry, and then there's Green Day. Everything's in their compartments.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't let things cross over. Yeah. And I find that in Canada as well. So it's a little bit frustrating. Whereas in Europe, I mean, you have festivals with, you know, Erykah Badu and Atari Teenage Riot on the same day, on the same stage.
Absolutely.
And so it's frustrating that it doesn't happen in North America as much. It's always like, there's always like, for North America, it'll always be like littered with politics, and there's always backfire. With Europe, I mean, there's Wacken Open Air that is like a 4-day or a 3-day festival with like pure metal. Next year's Wacken is sold out, by the way. 2013 is sold out, and we're like
that far
11 months away from it.
It's got a brand.
But we get to play it because of the open-mindedness of the bookers and the audience, where they recognize that hard rock music is warranted in this genre. You know, you can have, you know, Amon Amarth and Creator and Machine Head and Arch Enemy, but you can also have Nashville Pussy, Danko Jones, you know, and Airborne play it, and it all makes sense. And so that's what's missing in North America, I find.
It took about 2 years, right? 2 years of
the doc,
to edit and to mass all that footage. Has basically been we've had all this footage for collecting, and I've been storing it and then just transferring it over to hard drives, and then I think it was 2 to 3 terabyte.
Wow.
So stuff that we sent over. And then, you know, there's a couple of folks in New York who went through everything and cataloged everything. It's like, you know, live performance circa 1996 using white guitar, using, you know, so it was just kind of like, you know, Europe. So and then, they just made it flow like they meant to have the footage that way. Instead, it was really a lot of work on the part of the Diamonds to put it together. I think they did a great job with the DVD. And that, you know, going back to saying touring in the US, I think having a DVD like that out now is a great tool for us to have, just to kind of bring people up to speed as to what we've done for the last 16 years.
Literally, while I'm on the road, every day, like
something like that.
I did actually do that. That was the reason why the podcast is called the Official Danko Jones Podcast, because there is another podcast that I used to do in 2004, where I was kind of each kind of episode was the last week on the road or something, and I did that for a little while, and that's still up on iTunes, but you can't download it. So that's why we called it this new one, the Official Danko Jones Podcast. No.
Clear and concise. Question asked, answer given.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't find it entertaining to myself, because I'd already lived it. I'm like, and last night was cool because we had this, you know, it was cool. And this dude came on stage. I'm like, well, I just lived it. I don't want to. I just want to move on, you know, move forward. The reason why I do the podcast is because it started with just me and a friend of mine talking in my living room and uploading it on iTunes and just seeing reactions. And then in order to expand it, we decided to bring in guests. And this is kind of blossomed to these Henry Rollins and Marty Friedman. The Marty Friedman one was great.
It was.
Because he's in Tokyo, and I didn't realize that he's ahead of us.
Yeah.
And so we had decided, like whatever it was, like Tuesday or something. And for some reason, I just emailed him and I just confirmed our podcast. He's like, I wrote to him. I go, hey Marty, so we're still on for tomorrow. Such and such time, 7 p.m. your time, or 7 a.m. your time, or 10 a.m. And he wrote me back right away, and he goes, if by tomorrow you mean 30 minutes from now, yes. And I realized that the time zone, we had been confirming different days. Yeah. So I realized it, and I quickly set up my computer and stuff, and we got it on tape. But after the podcast, because of the new Kiss track, Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, yeah.
He emailed me and he's like, well, have you heard it? And this is our conversations. Yeah, man, what do you think? I think it's like this, and I think it's like that. Well, what do you think? And then finally I stopped him and I go, Marty, this is episode number 2, man. We got to do another one. What are we doing here?
Right. Yeah.
So he goes, yeah, okay, cool. But he has just released his back catalog finally in America. So finally it's out on Prosthetic, I think.
Oh, okay.
And so he is touring America very soon in support of that.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that.
And so we're going to kind of make sure that it's around that time and do another episode with him.
Oh,
I'm looking
great.
forward to it. Yeah, it was surreal because he was in Tokyo and it was morning for him and evening for me. And we weren't talking about anything but this other band that none of us knew about. It was just this weird thing. Usually when I'm talking to someone, it's about their band.
Right.
Or my band.
Yeah.
And so it was awesome. This has been in the making for 2 years, the book. We flew over the writer Stuart Berman on one of our European tours, and he just interviewed us while we were on the road.
What are some of his past credits?
He wrote a book called This Book is Broken, which is about Broken Social Scene, which is an indie rock band from Canada that is on a hiatus right now, but they did very well in a short period of time.
Okay.
They've played Letterman, and they've done all kinds of stuff. And
He's a writer for
Pitchfork,
Okay.
and
Editor
Spin.com, and he's the editor of a weekly called The Grid in Toronto.
Okay.
I mean, he's been writing. He's a music critic.
He's legit.
He's super legit. Yeah.
Cool.
And he's even in the Pixies movie, actually, interviewing Frank Black.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, by the phone. I was watching the Pixies movie. I'm like, that's Stuart. That's Stuart's voice. So he's been around for quite a while, and because of that, he's also very likable. So he was able to gain the trust of old members, knowing they knew they were in good hands with him. He wouldn't throw them under the bus, and that is only that he would make sure that their quotes were accurate.
Yeah.
And one thing we said to him is let them know that they could speak freely and they won't be censored, they won't be edited, which I think they knew with him doing the book. But still, we wanted to make sure that everybody's quotes were accurate. We're not going to change them. And there's a little bit of mudslinging our way,
that's going to be expected.
Yeah, which
because
is
they're
great.
ex-members.
Yeah, well, I go for it. Like, as much as some of the quotes really pissed me off, it's all in there. And so that was 2 years in the making, and it's an oral history. Over 70 people were chased down and interviewed by Stuart. And man, the cast of characters in it, it's like Lemmy's in it, Jello Biafra's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Dizzy
Philomena
Reed.
Lynette.
Yeah, Philomena is in it. Phil's mom from Thin Lizzy.
Nice.
And Dizzy Reed's in it. Del James is in it.
Yeah.
And then members of Obituary, Morbid Angel,
Ralph Macchio,
Sepultura, the Backyard Babies, the Helicopters, Opeth, Turbo Negro, Marty Friedman's in it. God, I'm just trying to think.
You dropped something.
Oh yeah, all the names I'm
All the
dropping.
You want me to pick those out for you?
But it just like, and then there's like,
Brendan Canning's in it.
Brendan Canning, Allison Wolf from Bratmobile, and Peaches is in it. So it's like a really wide range of people.
Full gamut of.
And it's I'm very proud of it. So I think Stuart, like the Diamonds, like really kind of knocked it out of the park. So we have this book and we have this DVD that we're super proud of, and we want people to watch it and we want people to read it. You know, there's been things that we haven't put it out, but there's been things put out in the past with our name on it that, you know, when people say, hey, you have such and such out, we're like, yeah.
We don't stand behind those.
Yeah, that's out. But this we're very proud of. We want everybody to see it and read it.
I want to thank JC and Danko Jones for joining me today. For more information, go to the official website, dankojones.com. For KNAC.com, my name is DJ Will.